I'm glad to meet all you fellows. uh, I'm not much of a talker, so you'll have to be along with Holt or go along with me. My memory isn't what it used to be neither, so uh, just go along with me. Okay, I'll try to answer as many questions as I can. Uh, I'm I don't know whether to give you a little synopsis of my life. I was born in
User in your channel started
1925.
recording.
Uh, I went into graduate. Well, I finally got my GDP in after I come out of the service. But anyway, I graduated from high school. Uh, when I turned 18, the war was going on, and of course at that time everybody was gung ho. You were anxious to do your part. Everyone was. So I joined the military, and I wanted to join the Air Force, and I wanted to fly. But being as things were at that time, the Air Force was part of the Army. So I had to enlist in the Army to get into the Air Force, and I requested it when I on my papers when I signed. So anyway, I was fortunate enough to we went to basic training down in Jefferson Barracks, Missouri, and that's where we took our tests. And I was fortunate to get into the Air Force. Uh, I passed all the exams for flight training, and there was about 30 of us that were waiting to be assigned to flight school. Well, about 10 of them did go, and the rest of us were waiting, and we all got our papers stamped no zest for flying, and they sent us to gunnery school. So that was my introduction into
User
the
in your
Air
channel
Force,
started
actually.
recording.
I went into we went to gunnery school in Las Vegas, Nevada, and that was about 3 months there. We went from there to Tampa, Florida, where our crew was formed, and we went through 3 phases of training down there.
User was moved to your
At the
channel.
time, I didn't know what position I would be firing from, but because in school we just had 50 caliber machine guns, and we didn't have any. They had turrets, but not a ball turret. But anyway, after we formed the crew, of course, I was the smallest of the bunch, so I I was assigned the ball turret. So from there, we had 3 months of face training. From there, we went to Langley Field, Virginia, for 30 days, and our pilot and navigator and the bombardier took got some lessons on radar. That's when radar was first introduced, I guess. And so from there we got onto a radar plane. There was no ball turret in it. It was just a white ball underneath it. So we went to Gander Field, uh, Newfoundland, and from there we went overnight overseas to England. Then we went to a
User was moved to your
replacement
channel.
depot and we were assigned to the 385th Bomb Group. And after I was done there, we put in our 29. Well, we were supposed to put in 30, but they took me off of my crew for the first mission. They had some extra gunners that had to get some time in, so they put an extra gunner on our crew for the one anyway for the one day. And when they come back, my pilot didn't want him anymore. He wouldn't stay in the ball, so he got me back on the crew. So I was one mission short of the rest of the crew, but they still let me come home anyway after we were done. And we were supposed to go to B-29 school to get acquainted with the B-29 and go over in the South Pacific. But as the war dwindled down, where I went to down in Texas. Like I said, my memory, you'll have to excuse it. San Angelo, Texas. And we stayed there for about 3 months. And in July of 45, they took 3,000 people out of the Air Force and sent us over to Northern California to fight fires. That's what I had done for the last 3 months that I was in service. I was discharged in October of 45. Well, after that, of course, I come home. I had all my fill of the Army life, and I got married in. I met my wife, as far as that goes, in 1946, and we were married in 1947, July 5th, 1947. We just celebrated our 65th wedding anniversary last July. We had three children, a girl and two boys. And I retired from Sears Roebuck Company in 1985. And after that, all I did was nothing. Played golf and bowled. I bowl twice a week and I play golf twice a week. So in the summer for the golf and in the winter I bowl. So that's about the extent of my life. Most of my crew, we corresponded for quite a number of years, and we visited about four of them, and one of my tail gunner was my buddy. He visited us for a week, and but now he was the last of the radio operator was the last of the crew that just passed away. So I'm the only one left. So that's about the extent of it. If you guys have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them for you.
Well, if you've got some stories as being the belly gunner of B-17 or anything about the aircraft, we'd sure like to hear a couple of those.
Microphone muted.
Well, I was always happy to be on a B-17. We had no choice, of course, at the time, but I never did think much of the B-24. We always used to call them a flying boxcar, but anyway, I think the B-17 is a much better plane. It's will take more punishment than any other plane in the air. We, as far as experience in combat experience with it, uh, we come back many times. That was one of the reasons we called our plane, the last plane we had was Five Feathers, because we had feathered engines on 5 different missions in a row. So not five, we had once where it was only on 4 missions. The other, we feathered 2 of them. But anyway, the first one, we were coming back from Merceburg, and that was in, I believe, the first part of December 1944. Merceburg was an oil refinery and oil storage and whatnot. That was the longest mission of all, and it was very, very well protected. They told the last time I was there 4 times. The last time I was there, they said the time before they said there were 750 ACAC guns around there surrounding the area. When that the last time they just gave up, they says we don't know how many there are. But we lost 2 engines. In fact, before we got even in the target, so we were falling behind our group. We went over the target ourselves and dropped the load because we were right there. So we might as well do it. The pilot said. So we come back all by ourselves about halfway home. That was a 10-hour mission, so about halfway home, I looked both ways, and we had a P-51 on each side of us, and they escorted us back. By the time we got to the front lines in Belgium, it was we're down to maybe 8,000 feet. I don't know. I know it was too low to fly a B-17 over enemy territory. But anyway, we got some flack, but we couldn't get back to England, so my pilot dropped it back at just outside of Charleroi, Belgium. It was a fighter base, and we spent 3 days there. Of course, we were fortunate to go into town. They let us go in with the other crew and or some of the ground crew that was there, and of course we didn't know what their money was, so we didn't have any. Our pilots were the only ones that the pilot, co-pilot, the only ones had their wallet, their money with them. So they split up whatever they had, got it in Belgium money, and we all went into town. They took us in on a truck, and we're about 45 miles from the front lines. Everything was blacked out. So when they stopped the big truck, we all piled out, and there was nothing there. It was blacked out. But we were right in front of a place. We opened the door, and when we walked in, it was the most beautiful place you ever want to see. They had one whole wall was all mirrors, and they had a dance orchestra there, and we had a ball. they, I shouldn't say this, but I guess I will anyway. They asked me to. Our crew wanted to take some champagne back to England with us because we knew we were going back the next day. They were taking us over in a C-47. So they gave me a handful of money, and this GI that was stationed there, he said, I think I know where I can get you some. So I said, okay. So they sent me with him. Well, he couldn't get it. We walked down about 2 or 3 blocks and went into a place that was like a hotel lobby and whatnot. And he went and talked to the guy. Come back, he says, no. He said, no, there were 2 girls sitting in the table. And so he says, come on, we'll sit down with them. Of course, I had no uniform, and he was trying to explain that I was an American airman. All I had was the heated suit with the wires hanging out of it and whatnot. So anyway, first thing you know, he says, let's go. It's all set. What do you mean? He says, upstairs. So I made the truck back to the base anyway, and with no champagne, of course. And I guess that, that they took us back to England. But the guys, I don't remember offhand what the guys said about not having the champagne. But anyway, and then another mission. This was the one I distinctly remember. The other was kind of fuzzy to me because we landed at some. It was we couldn't get back into England neither, and this was in France, just not too far from the Belgian border or whatever border it was. I know it was in France somewhere, but when we ended up, what it was is all I can remember. As we come to the end of this runway, it might have been a auxiliary runway or whatever. I don't know, because there was green grass around the field. And there was an old man come wheeling in on a bicycle, and he started talking. And of course, I was Polish, and I had gone to Polish school, so I spoke very fluent Polish at the time. Today I don't remember a word of it, but anyway, so my tail gunner was a Czechoslovakian, and the languages are similar. So he recognized, he called me, and that's the way we got along. They took us into the Red Cross, and we finally got back to England. They took us to a base nearby, and that's the way. Then we got back to England anyway. But that was some of the experiences that I had with it. Of course, I flew this mission with you guys this afternoon, and one thing I noticed, there was no flak. So that must have been a milk run. That's the only thing I can say. I said it was, but I guess there was a little mix-up on the program or something. But we did get a lot of flack. We did. Actually, they had corridors that they flew. They know where the ack guns were at, so we didn't have flak that I can remember anywhere until we got on the bomb run. Then we had the flak. The fighters wouldn't come in. German fighters wouldn't come in on the bomb run because of the flak. But some targets weren't too bad, but some were, the sky was pretty full of it. We could see it coming. We knew what we were in for when I could see where what the sky looked like ahead of us. I knew exactly where the target was because of the flak. But anyway, I don't know what just a moment. Yeah, I was asked before what the ACAC was like. It's hard to explain, but the concussion on it, sometime it was so close that you could feel the uh, oh, I can't think of the word. I could feel the explosion, you know. Uh, like I said, I the word just seems to. Yeah, I could feel the concussion. Anyway, we always had holes in our plane. Just about every mission. One of the easiest missions I had was the last one, and that was we were only in enemy territory about 15 minutes. It was over. We were bombing submarine pens, and we went over the target, and there was no ACAC, no flak. But there was a partly cloudy sky, and we had to go. We made the pass, and they couldn't drop, so we had to make another pass around, get back on the bomb run, and drop the second time. But like I said, there was no flak, and it was an easy mission. So, but other than that, I don't know. The one mission I remember too. We were having some engine problem, and we fell back, and there was a group behind us that had an opening down on, and so we filled in that position, and evidently the other plane must have had the same problem or some sort of problem, but they straightened it out. So we had to fall back, and he went in place in his regular position. And he must have took one right in the Bombay because he just blew. Uh, all there was just a bunch of smoke and litter all over. Uh,
It stayed there.
yeah, I suppose if I'd have stayed there, or if our plane would have stayed there, I wouldn't be here today. Uh, they also warned us in December about the Germans having some jet fighters and to be out on the lookout for them. And we did see one. I saw a flight of them. There was about 4 or 5. They were off at quite a distance, and they were really moving. So we knew they were jets. And but it's the only time I've ever seen them. They never hit our group anyway. I don't know if they hit any other groups, but they never touched. They never come onto our group. That V1 rocket that the Germans were sending over to England, our base must have been pretty much in line because at least 3-4 times a week we would hear it coming, and it wasn't very high. It was only about 1,000 feet high, between 500 and 1,000 feet high. But we'd run out of our barracks and watch it. It sounded like a motorcycle, and it'd go on over us, but it never stopped. But we saw them either 2 or 3 times or 4 times a week. And then V2 in December when we were flying, we saw the contrails of the V2 rocket.
Would you like to answer a few questions?
Sure, be more than happy to.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so the first person comes from a gentleman named Eric from FS Break. And Eric, if you've got the floor.
Okay, thank you, Todd.
First of all, I just wanted to thank you for your service and thank you for being with us all today. My kind of question is, you said that you originally signed up to be a pilot, and I imagine you, along with a lot of people probably in this room, share the dream of, one day flying. I'm just wondering if that's ever happened, if you ever got your private license or got to fly at all.
No, I never had. They, like I said, they sent us to gunnery school, and that's where I ended up. And once I got out, I had enough flying. So I never had the urge to fly.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Next on the list, we have McBain. McBain, if you'd like to unmute your mic, ask your question.
Sure.
Hello, it's Major McBain from the 91st Bombardment Group, FSX. Just like to thank you for having come on, and it's an honor to have you here and hear all these stories. I've got a question of my own, and
Sure.
it's about something called a short snort. I don't know if you're aware of that, but I heard some stories where before the guys went on missions, they'd go into a pub or something and they'll have a short snort and sign a note, like a dollar or some sort of currency. All the crew would sign the bill, as they say, yeah? And I'd like to know a little bit about that and know if you've ever done it,
No, I never had. In fact, I had never heard of it. That's new. That's news to me. I've never heard of it.
Oh, okay. Thanks anyway.
Sure thing.
Okay, we have Tim. He's got a question to ask you. Go ahead, Tim. You've got the floor.
I'm good. He answered it. My question was his most memorable mission, and he kind of went over that. So we covered it. Thank you, and thank you for coming, Staff Sergeant.
Okay. I didn't hear what the question was, sir.
Okay, my question is, what was your most memorable mission?
The most memorable one was probably the one at Merseburg. That was the longest, and we had the most flak, and that's where we had fighter, and we had lost 2 engines and everything, so we never made it back to England. So I would say that would probably be about the most memorable, really. A lot of them were, well, we called them normal missions, where you get flak and whatnot, and we didn't have too much. Weren't hit only twice by fighters. We didn't have that many German fighter problems because we had P-51 escorts at the time. So, but that would probably be my most memorable.
That's great, awesome, and thank you ever so much for coming and talking to us. It's really appreciated.
Sure.
Okay, we've got Gypsy Baron has a question for you. Gypsy, you've got the floor.
Thank you, Zoo. Yeah, Staff Sergeant, thanks for coming along on the mission today. Sorry we couldn't show you some flak there due to a little technical glitch. Could have made you feel right at home, by golly.
All right.
Because normally we have a lot of it. In any case, my question has to do with the fighters. Well, I guess both your escort and the opposing fighters, the German fighters. I guess I originally was going to ask you whether which that you might have feared the most, the 109s or the 190s. But it sounds like you guys were pretty well covered by 51s during one of your missions. Could you just address that a little bit?
Well, the 109 was the ones that were the most popular, I guess, at the time. Uh, those are the only, like I said, we were only hit by fighters twice, and both times they didn't stay around too long. There was only about 4 or 5 in the pack, and
User was
they'd
moved to your channel.
fly through a couple of times each, and that's about it. And then they take off because the 51s were on their way. There was always some 51s somewhere. Of course, there were a lot of groups to cover, so we didn't see the fighters, but they were there somewhere. And it didn't take them long to get there when we did see them. But the
Great, thanks a lot.
109s would be about the most that we had seen.
Okie dokie, thank you. Thank you for your service, sir.
Sure.
Okay, and we have a question from Captain Juke, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Captain, you've got the floor.
Yeah, sorry about the nickname. It's difficult for anybody not Danish. I had a small question. You talked about gunnery school. I was just wondering a bit more specific what they teach you there and how long you were there.
We were in Las Vegas gunnery school for 3 months. What they taught us was mostly the mechanics of the 50 caliber machine guns. We had to disassemble them and put them back together with gloves on. We had to do it blindfolded. When they got done, that would be the breech, taking the breech and totally dismantling the breech on it. And when we got done there, we were pretty well familiar with the 50 caliber. Now they took us up in 17s, and we fired at a sleeve that a lighter plane, the fighter would drag behind them, quite a few yards behind them. And we fired each man. There were probably about 4 or 5 in each crew would go up with and each one had a different colored color on their slug, so they knew who hit it and how many times the target was hit. And then we also had our ground school. We fired a 50s target practicing down there. We had a lot of shotgun practice. The reason for that was for lead, in case those sights that they had on the, excuse my language, but they weren't worth a shit. So that's why they knew it, evidently, because we shot an awful lot of shotguns. We went on a skeet range, oh gosh, at least a couple of times a week. And we fired at clay pigeons off of a top turret. They had two 12-gauge shotguns mounted on the top turret. And then they'd throw the skeet out, and you had to try to hit it. That was tough to do, but anyway, that was one of it. Then they had they put us on a pickup truck, each man on a pickup truck, and they had a bench with 2 boxes of shells on it, and a chair, high chair. You sat there, and he'd drive down this road, blacktop, and there would be trap boxes that would shoot the clay pigeons up. You didn't know which way it was going, but you could see the box, but you didn't we couldn't see which way it was going. But we shot 25 shots going one way, it'd turn around, come back, and 25 back. And we did that quite often. So we got to be, of course, I was familiar with shotguns because I hunted pheasants and rabbits and things when I was a young kid, starting when I was about 12 years old. But anyway, some of the guys were not familiar with them, and this gave them a good practice. And in fact, we had a skeet range right on our base in England, and we were each crew was compelled to go to the skate range at least once a month. And I remember one time we were there, and I had 23 out of 25 pigeons that I killed or shot, clay pigeons. And so the instructor there, he wanted to shoot around. He says, I'll tell you what I'll do. He says, we'll shoot for 50 cents each. And he says, I'll spot you guys, whatever you did. So I shot 23. No, I'm sorry. I shot 22 because he spotted me 3 pigeons. Well, when we went through, I shot 23 the next time, so he couldn't beat me. But anyway, this was, and like I say, we were there for 3 months. And that's about what the extent of what we, I heard some guy, how true it was, I don't know. It's just a story I heard. Somebody shot the tow plane that was dragging the sleeve. So how true it was, I don't know. But that's just a story I heard.
Okay, thank you. This is
Okay.
kind of funny for me because I'm only 20, so I'm trying to relate to this being around the same age, but it's really hard. It's hard to imagine.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, another question here from Colonel Bates. You've got the floor.
Thank you very much. First off, on behalf of all our members on the 91st, we appreciate all that you've done for us to preserve our freedom during the time of World War II. And it is an honor and a pleasure to have you here, and you are always welcome to come with us on any one of our missions that we fly. And the door is always open to you. For my question, I would just like to hear what it is like for a turret gunner in his little turret, because I've seen the 909 and I've seen the turret, and I just can't imagine what it would be like being in a turret for all those hours, and I would just like to hear how you felt being inside that thing.
Well, it was a kind of a lonely feeling because you were all alone down there. Every once in a while, I'd have to get my guns up and see if the wings were still above me. But anyway, it was a comfortable position, though. We had a nice little cushion on the seat and on the back, and it was a comfortable position, even though it was a long position. But if I was pointing my guns down, I'd be like in a sitting position. But when I had them up, I was laying back like in an easy chair. So it wasn't that bad, really.
Okay, I have one other question.
Okay.
Being at the turret gunner, I have heard that it was like a major experience. Some ball turret gunners would actually ride in the ball turret during takeoffs or during a landing. Have you ever done that?
That never happened. Never happened that I know of.
Okay.
Unless there was something wrong with the ball well, even if you lost the hydraulics, it was hydraulically driven. So if you lost the hydraulic system, you still had manual controls to get yourself in or out of it. Get yourself out of it if you're in it, you know. So I don't know of anybody that would sit in that thing for a landing or a takeoff. We never got into it till we were up above, we were forming. And then I would get into it, and as we got over the channel.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just a moment. Yeah, one thing I'd like to say, and Russ just reminded me, my radio operator, he was a little older than we were. Him and the waist gunner graduated from Northwestern University before he got into the military. But anyway, my wife and I visited him. He lived just south in just south of Minneapolis, and we went and visit them. And Gordon said to my wife, he says, "You know," he says, I wondered what would happen if we had an emergency and the plane started to go down, and hey, how would he get out of there in time? Because I couldn't wear my chute inside of it. The chute was out on the catwalk that went around it. So when we were coming back the time, when we spent the 3 days in Belgium on that mission, on my way back, as we come over the front lines, we were only like, maybe 8,000 feet or so. And of course, with a 17 flying about 160 miles an hour, it's like shooting a fish out of a barrel, you know. And I was facing forward, and all of a sudden I saw 3 pops of flak as we come over the front lines. And my pilot tipped the wing sideways and he hollered, "Get your chutes on." And Gordon told my wife, he says, I come out of there like Jack out of the box. I beat the waist gunner actually to the door. But anyway, he stopped me from bailing out. But he said I never worried about him after that. Like I said, if we lost hydraulics or something, I still could use the manual control to get out of it. But if we had ACAC or something tear up the track on it, then I was stuck. There's nothing I could do to get out of it.
Okay, copy that. We have another question from Janice. Janus.
Thanks. Hello, and everyone has said it already, but thanks very much.
Yes, sir.
And I have one question.
Sure.
How did you deal with all the stress and the anxiety before each flight? How did you and your entire crew, of course, feel before going on such a mission every time?
Well, as I said, I was only 19 years old. I was a young kid at that time. Today they'd have to drag me in chains to put me in that sucker to go now. But anyway, uh, they used to post. We never flew every day. They would post on our bulletin board about 8 o'clock every night who was going to fly the next day. So we knew the night before whether we were going to be flying or not. But really, like I said, I was only a 19-year-old kid. I could see I couldn't. Nothing could happen to me, you know. So I did. It didn't bother me really. In fact, my tail gunner, like I said, he was my buddy. We used to get our flight suit on after we had our breakfast and briefing and everything, and get out to the plane. We used to plug in our heated suit and sit there and go to sleep till they took off. So really,
User was moved to your channel.
it didn't bother us that much. We knew we had to go, and what can you do? Do the best we could.
Okay, thanks very much.
Sure.
Okay, and we have First Lieutenant Mark. Mark, you've got the floor to ask your question.
Sure.
Thank you. Sorry, sir. I just wanted to know, night missions, did you guys often fly night missions or not that many?
We never flew night missions. The English Air Force, RAF, flew the night missions, and we flew day missions. We took off at daybreak every morning when we were on a mission.
Roger. Thank you for that.
Sure. The only time I flew a night mission was in phase training down in Tampa, Florida, and we flew up almost into Michigan and around. That was during the night. And when we were going overseas, we went over during the night. And of course, the pilot had it set on automatic pilot. That one time I sat in the co-pilot seat to talk to the pilot. But
Okay.
we never flew night missions.
Great. Sorry, one more question. I've posted the photo of yourself with your flight crew.
Yes.
Would you mind taking us through that photo and just explaining for to the people who's who on the photo? Would you mind doing that for us?
Sure thing. There we are. There we are. Okay. Well, there's something I just noticed on that picture. It's a silver plane. I never realized that, but our plane actually was camo color. But anyway, it looks like it's silver. Anyway, from left to right, standing is Gordon Ruth. He is our radio operator. The next one over, I can't remember his name because he wasn't with us that long. The next two, they were the first one there with the hat on. He was a navigator, but he was with us, but we never had much to do. I don't even remember his name anymore. And that one there was a bombardier. And most of the time we didn't even have a bombardier. The bombs were dropped by the navigator, and he would drop by the lead plane. When the lead plane dropped his bombs, he would drop a flare with it. And the rest of the group would drop their bombs with that lead plane. There were a few bombardiers in it, but we never had one. The fourth one over is our pilot. His name was Harold Lambert, and he was from Wisconsin. They tell me he was a dairy farmer in Wisconsin. I don't know for sure, but that's what they say. And the one on the end was the hot rod uh, uh, co-pilot, and his name was. We had quite a. Oh God, I can't remember offhand. I knew it just a couple of minutes ago, and I forgot it. That's what my memory goes. But anyway, he was a co-pilot. Right kneeling was Joe Barton. He's the waist gunner. Then, of course, I'm next, and then next to me was Riley Heineman. He was the one. He was the oldest of the enlisted men, and he figured we were all his kids. He always said he was the top gunner, engineer. The next one was the other waist gunner. His name was Wolf. He was from Florida. And then the end one is my buddy Andy Strook. He was from Chicago, and he was a retired policeman. He was the one to come visit us. We visited him on our honeymoon, and he visited us for, I think, a week it was one time. And then, like I said before, as far as I know, all of them are gone. They're all dead now. I'm the only one left on the crew. The officers, we didn't have too much to do with the officers all the way through because they had their own quarters. The only time we would be with them was be on our flights. We'd meet them out on a plane and when we got off and whatnot, but we never mingled with the officers on the crew. We never saluted anybody on the base in England, but we never mingled with any of the officers on the crew. Us, the enlisted men, slept in the same barracks, and we were all together all the time. So I was more friendly with those guys than I was with the officers.
Good, sir. Thank you very much.
The waist gunner on the right-hand side, kneeling on the right-hand side, he was about ready to flip his lid, even though he was an educated young man. But the pressure, he just couldn't take it, I guess. And he used to talk to himself and whatnot in his break. They sent us on a 10-day R&R leave to a mansion in England. I think we had our 20th mission in when they sent us to the rest home or R&R. But it was like being kings. They had a butler leave us orange juice on the table in the morning, and they just catered to every whim we had. We went horseback riding. I couldn't walk for 2 days after, but we could play tennis or they had different games to play and whatnot. It was just a rest home. But I think Joe Barton was the reason that we did go there, because he was about ready to flip his lid.
Good, sir. Thank you very much for that.
Sure.
Okay, we've got another question from Ben. Ben, you've got the floor.
Thanks for taking my question. First off,
yes.
A few years back, I'm 22 now, and I would have been 18 or 19, and I got to sit in the ball turret of Sentimental Journey, and I'm 5'9", and for my birthday, I got a B-3 style flight suit or jacket, and that thing probably weighs 15 pounds, and flying with it in a Cessna, I have to take it off because it's so bulky and heavy and hot, and I was wondering it says here your service tour was 44 to 45. I'm wondering if you guys shied away from the shearling suit, or did you have a more lighter electric heated suit, and how did that hold up in the turret?
I never had anything other than the electric suit. It was much, much lighter. It was, like having a lightweight jacket on. I don't know. It's hard to describe, but it was not bulky or heavy or anything like that. The old suits they had in 1943, those guys had those sheepskin sheep wool heavy jackets. Those were bulky. I had a set like that before where I went over, and then they took them away from us and they gave us the heated suits.
I see. Yeah, I was kind of curious because I was curious too to how it held up and heat-wise, if it got too hot or too cold when you're at altitude.
Well, the heated suits were cloth, so nothing affected them. I don't know about any flight jackets like you. Was it the one that had the fur or kind of a furry liner in it, or was it a regular flight jacket?
I have the shearling jacket. It's almost 2 inches thick of shearling with a very thick leather. It gets pretty hot.
Oh, those would be. That's the old type. Like I said, I don't know. They issued it to us, but I never used it.
Oh,
they took it away from us and gave us the heated suits.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for answering my question and for everything you've done.
Here's another thing I'd just like to mention. When we were at our reunion down in Fargo, North Dakota, I don't know whether any of you had heard the story about the man that went down in the tail of one. Anyway, he was from our group and they introduced him. When that happened, it was over the channel, and two planes they were forming, and one plane come down on the other and cut the tail right off of the plane, and he come down with that tail down into the channel, and he survived it.
Wow.
Okay, Ben, do you have any more questions?
No, that about does it now for me. Thanks again for answering it.
Sure.
Okay, Major McBain, you have a question.
Just a quick question. I don't know if you mentioned it, but how many did you down any Messerschmitts? Did you shoot any down?
No, not that I know of. I don't know. You hear a lot or on the movies and whatnot. You see them; they blow up when you hit them. Well, that don't happen most of the time. So I don't know. No, I shot at them, but I don't know whether I got them because it was just split seconds. So you don't have much time. So when they come up, well, like in my case, I was underneath there. They'd come up and he'd just peel off to the side. So I never seen him after. So I don't know.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Do we have anyone else with any questions? If you can put a question mark down at the bottom of the TeamSpeak. Well, it looks like that kind of wraps it up there, Staff Sergeant.
Okay.
I have to say, from Digital Theme Park, the 91st, and all the other flight groups here, we really appreciate you being here. It's been fabulous. Love the stories. And again, I want to thank you for your service.
You're welcome. Thank you very, very much for giving me the honor to talk to you guys. I enjoyed it, really. It's been a long time, and this is the first time really that I've sat down and talked to anybody since I've gotten out of there. For a long time, I couldn't talk about it at all. But then after that, I talked bits and pieces with people and whatnot. But no one that I don't know. I just never did. But I enjoyed talking to you guys. I enjoyed going on that mission today, even though we didn't have any flak. But I enjoyed it anyway. I'm glad I met you guys. I was happy to answer your questions for you as well as I could. But like I say, my memory isn't what it used to be. I'm sure there are a lot of things I had forgotten, and I just sometimes I'm stuck for words. I can't think of the words to use and whatnot. So, oh, those things happen, you know.
Well, it all turned out very well. We really enjoyed it. And if everyone wants to unmute their mic and say their goodbyes, that would be nice.
Sir, I'd like to tell you thank you for your service. I really appreciate it. I had several uncles who were over there during the war, and I know what they went through, and it's got to be something else for you to get up and talk about it. And I really appreciate your courage and bravery.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And next time you come on a mission there, Sergeant, I'll guarantee you we'll get Russ to make sure he has the flak set up properly for you.
Okay.
Yeah, I was about to say that myself.
And you're flying your formations a little too far apart too.
Yeah.
Now you're going to cause us a lot of extra practice there now after that.
Oh.
You got to resurrect the flight academy again. We need practice.
I told you.
Now wait a minute.
You said we had to tighten up.
I'm going to ask the question. How close? I'm going to ask the question then, since you bring it up, Dad. How close did they fly together?
It's hard to tell up there. Just going by vision. Of course, maybe the screen doesn't give you the exact vision that you would actual, but I don't know. Sometime pretty close. In fact, one time, I remember we were forming one time in a fog. We had a lot of fog in England. And we were forming one time, and as I was stepping down into the turret, I looked through the window right directly below me, and I could look into the window of the 17 below us, into the radio operating room of the that window that's behind it there. I could look into that. It was that close. I plugged in my. We talked with throat mics, is what we used to talk to, and I plugged in my throat mics and I hollered to the pilot, "There's a plane about 6 feet below us." So everything come out all right anyway.
This has been an experience I will never forget.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you. I enjoyed it. Enjoyed all of you.